Well, welcome to the Dryce Lab on behalf of ICS in Slovakia, Obsessed Garage, and Dryce Nation. We want to go over the IC-030 with you and help you understand as you get it out of the crate. You're going to be excited looking at it, but you don't really know exactly how everything works. So we want to spend some time and go over that on your behalf. And tell you how we designed this machine and how you can leverage and use it. The first thing I want to share with you is the nozzles that we have that come with the machine. This is for US only, so the rest of the world does not get these two nozzles that you'll see, a 45 and a 90 degree. They are helpful, but be careful with them. As that product goes through and catches the 45 or 90, it can get a little problematic if you're turning the volume up very high. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but you will get 4 nozzles. You've got a flat fan nozzle, you got this round nozzle, and then you got the 45 and the 90. So on the back side of the machine, there's a slot to put the gun and the flat nozzle, but not these two. So you'll put these aside somewhere else. All right, let's get right into it. You've got 3 screw holes here with Allens. If you ever need to take the sides off of the machine to service the machine, that's pretty simple. Tip number 1, at the end of the day, put yourself a little strap around the lid or put something in the lid closing so that the water can evaporate overnight. So don't leave the lid closed where it traps the frost that turns to water into moisture. So try to leave this open at night. So you basically have your on-off switch, which is in the front of the machine. That's not going to work if the safety is depressed. So you turn the knob to release it to come up, and then you can turn the power on. You should see a green light here. And then you've got your air pressure that is correlated with this air valve. You get it just between the teeth and you turn it and you can lock it in place so it can't move. I never lock mine, but you can lock it if you want to. So as soon as you turn this one way or the other, you'll see the corresponding air pressure increase or decrease. Just understand that those have diaphragms. These valves have diaphragms in them. If you crank them down too far or too far back, you'll ruin that diaphragm and they'll leak. So be gentle. You know, if you feel it come to its stop and you're all the way at the high, don't go crazy and crank it down. All right, so this is very important now. We're going to talk about this, what I call the black knob on the front of the machine. So it has a safety pin that you need to pull up on in order to move the knob anywhere. With the pointer of the knob at the 0, you're going to get air coming out of the gun, but you're not going to get any dry ice with the pointer pointing at 0. If you want full-size pellets, you would choose any setting on the right side or the green side. It says pellet consumption. Don't be confused by these numbers. The numbers are 1 through 9. Those numbers correspond to the volume of full-size pellets that you will get out of the machine. It does not correspond with the size of the pellet. On the same token, moving the knob to the other side, fractional consumption. Anytime you move past 0 over to the fractional side, you're now going to get dry ice that's crushed into smaller particles. Again, the number 1 through 9 corresponds with the volume of fractional dry ice that you will get out of the machine. So if you turn this all the way up to 9 and you turn the air pressure way down to 5 or 10 psi, you're probably going to plug your line. It's too much product on number 9, highest volume, for you to run. It's going to be about 1.3 or 4 pounds a minute, I think, in that range. So keep in mind that you're going to have an understanding on how the correlation between air pressure, nozzle choice, and volume, full size over here or fractional size over here, play into what's coming out of the end of the gun. If you ever do have a circumstance where you think, well, the machine plugs, like there's nothing coming out or a very small amount of air, you can remove the air hose on the back of the machine right here. You can remove this, leave these connectors in place, pull the trigger on the gun, stay clear of this area because air and dry ice will shoot out of that fitting if the hose is plugged. If the machine is plugged, then it's not going to come out here either. So that's just a quick test. If you do plug the machine, how do you determine, is it plugged in the hose or is it plugged in the actual machine? So your fittings back here, you do have a ground. If you need to hook the ground up to, I like to hook it to, on a car, a stud coming out from a fitting, so the threads, you wouldn't notice the clamp. That'll keep you from getting the static discharge while you're cleaning the car or the vehicle. The machine is very portable and easy to move around. It has 2 locking wheels down below, so you can lock those down and it will help from the machine moving around. So now you can see it's nowhere near as easy to move. The rear of the machine has a handle that you can simply unscrew these 2 knobs and all the way out, and that handle will come off if you need to transport it and take the handle off. As far as the gun goes, be careful because there's not a safety on the actual gun itself. So if you're handling the gun and you accidentally swing it around and have the trigger pulled, it's going to blow in your face. So be careful with that and realize that it's in a nice swivel. This is great, but if you wind it up and you don't pay attention and you keep winding, you could pull that cord loose. So just be cognizant of how this should have some free play. We do have new flashlights coming for the first 50 machines that we sold that won't go off on static discharge. So that's coming if you've already got a machine. These simply unscrew, and do not tighten these tight. Don't use a wrench. Keep them loose when it's room temperature. I usually tighten it down by hand and back it off a little. If you tighten this even like that, just that much by hand, and then you use the machine, we know cold makes things shrink. This thread is going to require a wrench to get it loose. So it's up to you, but I just usually tighten it down and then just back it off a notch so it's loose. And it's no problem to move it around wherever you're working and whatever you need done. There's your light. And that's the extent of what you need to know about the gun. Now, I do want to talk to you about nozzles. We have discovered in the last year of using the machine here at the Dryce Lab and talking to other members and owners that there's an interesting element of these nozzles as it compares and relates to the actual machine and the settings that you would pick. So I mentioned earlier that there's full-size pellets on this side of the knob, all the way over here, and fractional on this side. So what we know is the very smallest size pellets, or the softest that you could actually shoot from the machine, would be using this nozzle on the fractional side. The next most aggressive size particle would be on the fractional side with the round nozzle. The third, or next most aggressive, would be on the full-size pellet side, but back to the fan. Something happens inside here, there's some magic that occurs, where even a full-size pellet will come out of the nozzle end on this fan tip smaller than if you used the round nozzle. And there's some general principles of engineering and physics that cause that to happen. You know, this is not restrictive at all, where the dry ice can glance off either side before it leaves this nozzle. So if you're looking for a gradient of size particles, fractional side, anywhere over here on the purple, that's 1, smallest. Then the round nozzles, 2. And then full size back to the fan. And then full size still with the round. Those are the 4 sizes that you could play around with and have quite a bit of interesting experience. Don't be afraid to run this machine down to 5 to 10 PSI. I actually, for the first time in 5 years of being around Dryce machines, was able, you can turn this machine down with the fan, don't recommend it, but you could shoot your forearm with 5 PSI and the smallest particles, and it will not pierce the skin. I've not been able to do that with any other machine. Equally, if you need some serious aggression, you can actually allow your dry ice, or some of your dry ice, to degrade over 2 or 3 days and become what we call mushy or wet, and then turn the machine over to full-size particles. We've had great success in actually using bad ice on full-size particles on really sticky or heavy things. So, you know, what we've discovered more than anything is experimentation is really cool, and we'd like to get some feedback from you if you have any discoveries that you have on your end. So other than that, we have had challenges with moisture inside the hopper. So whenever you stop using the machine, if it thaws, be sure to blow out, just force air with the gun down in the hopper through the process. You should have a desiccant dryer. If you have a desiccant dryer, that's going to dry out the works of the machine and prevent it from freezing. It doesn't freeze so that the ice doesn't come out. It'll freeze so that you can't move this knob. So if you find yourself in a position where you try to move this knob and you cannot, after pulling the safety up, then that's because you've got water in the system. So just be aware, you don't want that to happen. So feel free to reach out to us for more details. We don't recommend putting a longer hose on the machine. If you want to purchase an extension for the machine, we have 3 different sizes. There's 6, 12, and 18 inches, and they simply go on the end of your nozzle and then on the end of your gun. And this can be really handy. I did this 308 Ferrari with the V12 in it, and it was so nice to get up in closer to my work, all the way up inside, and it works fabulous. So I highly recommend that you consider buying extensions, and we can order those for you, no problem. So if you have more questions, reach out to us, feel free, and we're excited that you got the machine. It's been exceptional. We've got 50 of these out in the service cycle now. It's January 2024. We'll look forward to hearing your discoveries and seeing your work online. Appreciate it. Scott Ailes from the Dryce Lab. See you soon. Thanks.